King Green earned a split decision victory over Lance Gibson, but the outcome left him genuinely surprised. Speaking after the fight, Green admitted he did not expect the judges' scorecards to be that close, as he felt he had clearly controlled the contest from start to finish. Reflecting on his career and recent setbacks, Green explained that time always reveals a fighter's true character. He referenced past moments, including slipping into a choke in the Paddy Pimblett fight and then facing another tough challenge shortly after, noting that situations like those are part of the sport. According to Green, those moments do not define who he is as a fighter or as a person. He emphasized that losses and setbacks are simply part of the journey and do not erase years of hard work, consistency, and growth. Instead, he believes fans will continue to see who he truly is the longer he competes. Green also pointed out that while Gibson accepted the fight on short notice, he himself had already dealt with 2 other opponents pulling out. For him, that did not matter. He stated that it makes no difference who steps into the cage, because his approach remains the same every time. He fights the way he fights, without changing his style or mentality. Despite ongoing criticism about his defensive habits, Green made it clear that his goal is not just to win, but to entertain. He prides himself on putting on shows for the fans and chasing fight of the night performances rather than playing it safe. Throughout the bout, Green said he was actively trying to engage and push the pace, encouraging his opponent to fight and meet him in exchanges. He stressed that simply getting a win is not enough for him. He wants to deliver memorable performances and prove his value every time he steps into the cage. When the decision was announced as a split, Green was visibly confused. In his view, he pressured Gibson throughout the fight, cutting him off and controlling the action. While Gibson secured a takedown, Green felt there was little damage or advancement that came from it. In contrast, when Green scored his own takedowns, his intention was to inflict damage and dominate. That, to him, was the clear difference between the 2 performances. Although he disagreed with the split decision, Green ultimately accepted the result, acknowledging that judging is out of his control and that a win is still a win. Jon Jones recently offered high praise for Nate Diaz pushing back against the long-standing public perception that Diaz is a gangster figure within combat sports. The 2 fighters worked together as coaches on Alf Reality, a show often described as a Russian version of The Ultimate Fighter, and Jones said the experience gave him a clearer, more personal understanding of who Diaz really is. According to Jones, the image many fans associate with Nate Diaz does not reflect the reality of the man behind it. He explained that Diaz is first and foremost a professional athlete who has dedicated his life to competition and training. Beyond fighting, Jones highlighted that Diaz is also a father, a coach, and a leader within his community. He emphasized that Diaz carries real responsibilities and takes them seriously, both inside and outside the gym. Jones went on to describe Diaz as a business owner and entrepreneur, someone who employs multiple people and helps support others through his work. In his view, these qualities alone separate Diaz from the stereotype often attached to him. Jones acknowledged that Diaz is known for smoking weed, flipping the middle finger, and projecting a rebellious attitude, but he stressed that these traits are part of a persona rather than an indication of criminal behavior or a gangster lifestyle. He made it clear that attitude and authenticity should not be confused with violence or lawlessness. From Jones' perspective, Diaz is actually far from being a gangster and is in reality a genuinely good person. He described him as respectful, thoughtful, and grounded when cameras are off. Jones suggested that people often misunderstand Diaz because of how he presents himself publicly and how moments of confrontation are highlighted online and in the media. Jones also briefly touched on the intensity that can surround strong personalities in combat sports. He noted that if certain confrontations were to happen away from cameras and public settings, situations could escalate quickly and lead to serious consequences. However, he did not frame this as a criticism of Diaz, but rather as an acknowledgement of how competitive and emotional high-level fighters can be. Overall, Jones' comments painted a very different picture of Nate Diaz than the one many fans are used to seeing. Instead of a gangster, Jones described Diaz as a hard-working professional, a family man, and a leader who had built a career, a business, and a legacy through discipline, authenticity, and commitment to the fight game. Ilia Topuria has revealed that he does not currently know when he will return to competition, as his focus is firmly on his family and resolving personal matters. Speaking openly about his situation, Topuria explained that he is dealing with personal problems and at this time cannot provide an exact timeline for when everything will be settled. Because of that uncertainty, he is unable to commit to a specific date for his next fight. Topuria made it clear that his priority right now is the well-being of his family, particularly his children. He emphasized that these responsibilities come before his career and that he believes it is important to handle personal matters properly before returning to the intense demands of professional fighting. According to Topuria, once these issues are resolved, he fully intends to resume training and prepare himself to step back into the octagon at the highest level. Despite the uncertainty surrounding his return, Topuria reassured fans that his absence is not due to a loss of motivation or desire to compete. On the contrary, he expressed strong confidence that he will be ready to come back as soon as circumstances allow. He stressed that his goal is not simply to return, but to return in the right condition, both mentally and physically, so that he can perform to the best of his abilities. Topuria also acknowledged the support he has received from fans during this period. He conveyed appreciation for the understanding shown toward his situation and noted that such support means a great deal to him and his family. He believes that taking the necessary time now will allow him to come back stronger, more focused, and better prepared to deliver high-level performances in the future. The undefeated contender reiterated that fighting at the elite level requires complete commitment, and stepping into the octagon while distracted or dealing with unresolved personal issues would not be fair to himself, his family, or the fans. For that reason, he is choosing patience over rushing back prematurely. Topuria concluded by promising that once everything is resolved, he will return to the octagon ready to give his all and put on the kind of show fans have come to expect from him. While no return date has been set, his message made it clear that this pause is temporary and that his commitment to competition remains as strong as ever. Rampage Jackson recently shared his perspective on Tom Aspinall's decision following the eye poke incident involving Cyril Gane, explaining that while he understands Aspinall's choice, he personally would have continued fighting. Speaking candidly, Jackson gave insight into how fighters from different eras often approach these situations with contrasting mentalities. Jackson suggested that the eye poke appeared intentional, stating that experience fighters can often recognize when such actions are done on purpose. In his view, an eye poke can completely change the course of a fight because the eye becomes a vulnerable point for the rest of the bout. Once a fighter is struck in the eye, it stays in the back of their mind, forcing them to fight more defensively. Any sudden hand movement afterward can cause hesitation or fear, giving the opponent a psychological and strategic advantage. According to Jackson, this makes eye pokes a significant game changer as they can disrupt rhythm, confidence, and overall performance. Despite those concerns, Jackson emphasized that he believes Aspinall ultimately made the correct decision given the circumstances. Because the fight was connected to a title opportunity, Jackson acknowledged that protecting long-term health and career prospects was the smart move. He explained that Aspinall's choice showed professionalism and awareness of what was at stake, especially when championship implications are involved. However, Jackson was clear that if he were in Aspinall's position, his own reaction would likely have been different. Coming from an earlier era of mixed martial arts, he admitted that he would have tried to push through and continue fighting if physically possible. He attributed this mindset to the culture he came up in, where fighters were often expected to endure adversity and finish fights regardless of setbacks. Jackson described himself as someone who has always leaned toward entertainment as much as competition. Even in high-stakes situations, including title fights, he said his instinct would be to keep going and try to deliver an exciting performance for the fans. He acknowledged that this approach may not always be the smartest from a strategic or health standpoint, but it is simply how he has always been wired as a fighter. In closing, Jackson reiterated that while his personal instincts would push him to continue, Aspinall's decision was the responsible and intelligent choice. The contrast, he explained, highlights the difference between eras in the sport, with modern fighters placing greater emphasis on longevity, safety, and calculated decision-making, while veterans like himself were often driven by toughness and the desire to entertain above all else. Ray Longo recently shared his thoughts on Merab Dvalishvili's performance against Petr Yan, suggesting that the demanding schedule Merab had been on may have played a role in how he looked inside the octagon. Had Merab defeated Yan at UFC 323, it would have marked his fourth bantamweight title defense in the same year, an achievement that speaks to both his durability and his willingness to stay active at the highest level of the sport. Longo explained that Merab is the type of fighter who will always do what he believes is right for himself and his legacy. According to Longo, Merab was never going to take extended time off because that would have meant passing up the opportunity to chase records and push himself further. From a coaching perspective, Longo described that decision as admirable and even exciting, acknowledging that it was a bold and ambitious goal to pursue. However, with the benefit of hindsight, Longo admitted that the pace may have had consequences. He noted that Merab appeared slightly flatter than usual in the fight, not displaying the same explosive energy and relentless pressure fans are accustomed to seeing. While Longo cautioned against overanalyzing the situation after the fact, he acknowledged that the signs were there, suggesting that both the physical and mental demands of such a packed schedule can eventually show, even in elite athletes. Despite that, Longo was quick to emphasize that Merab never looked defeated. Mentally, he remained strong, engaged, and competitive throughout the fight. Longo pointed out that Merab's mindset is one of his greatest strengths, as he is always present in the moment and never allows adversity to overwhelm him. Win or lose, Merab maintains the same attitude and composure, which Longo finds remarkable. To illustrate this point, Longo referenced a moment involving Aljamain Sterling, recall a scene where Merab was seen laughing in an ambulance after a difficult situation. For Longo, that moment perfectly captured Merab's unique mental toughness and ability to process challenges in a healthy, resilient way. He explained that Merab has an exceptional capacity to absorb pressure, accept outcomes, and move forward without dwelling on setbacks. Having worked with many fighters over the years, Longo concluded that Merab stands apart from most. His resilience, mindset, and willingness to push boundaries make him different from the rest, regardless of individual performances. In Longo's view, even on a night where Merab appeared slightly off his usual pace, his character and mental strength were on full display, reinforcing double. Henry Cejudo recently reflected on a key moment from his fight with Peyton Talbot at UFC 323, specifically addressing the inside trip that caught him off guard. Looking back, Cejudo admitted that he does not believe that sequence would have happened if he were still competing in his prime. Known throughout his career for elite wrestling defense and positional awareness, Cejudo expressed confidence that the technique would have been shut down automatically at his peak. Cejudo spoke candidly about the exchange, emphasizing how strong and reliable his defense once was in those positions. He suggested that during his prime years, opponents would have struggled to create that kind of opening, let alone capitalize on it. For him, the moment served as a reminder of how small changes in timing and athleticism can make a difference at the highest level of competition. Despite acknowledging that, Cejudo was quick to give credit to Talbot. He revealed that Talbot later told him that the inside trip was something he had learned from watching Cejudo's own techniques over the years. Hearing that, Cejudo responded positively, recognizing it as a sign of respect and growth. Rather than feeling frustrated, he viewed the moment as evidence that his influence as a fighter and technician continues to shape the next generation. Cejudo went on to praise Talbot's attitude and potential. He described him as a talented and humble fighter who showed genuine respect by taking the time to train with him for a few days. During that training period, the two exchanged knowledge and experiences, building mutual respect in the process. Cejudo made it clear that this kind of mindset is crucial for long-term success in the sport. When asked whether Talbot could eventually become a world champion, Cejudo expressed sincere hope that he could. He believes Talbot has the raw ability and work ethic required to reach the top, especially if he continues to refine his skills and make the right adjustments. Cejudo even extended an open invitation for further collaboration, telling Talbot to come train with him so they could work together to elevate his game. According to Cejudo, with the right guidance and technical adjustments, Talbot has the tools to defeat many of the top contenders in the division. He concluded by reaffirming his confidence in his ability to help fighters make those critical improvements, suggest that with dedication and the right mentorship, Talbot has a legitimate path to becoming a future champion.